Here is the introduction of Explora, but I will not go through in detail because it is not the today contents. We just want to let all of you know that we are focusing on the data, no matter on data transformation, data management, BI analytics, and we also got the ISO 9001 certificate from last year. And we have also have three office locations, which are in Hong Kong, Philippines, and Finland. And Hong Kong is the headquarters. Okay, now next slide. I will pass the time to our data expert, John Gabriel. He will share more fruitful information to all of you. Okay, now I pass the time to John.
Hello everyone. My name is John Gabriel Singson, and basically this is data visualization in a day. I would be mainly talking about my experiences in data visualization. So in first we would like to do some takeaways. So with the main benefits, how we do or how we have the main benefits in using visualization, the key factors in a perfect visualization storytelling, tips and tricks in creating a good data story, best practices for a visualization story, and what the tools Explora use that can help us in this drive. So first and foremost, let's go with how does data visualization work? So data visualization work mainly because we use data sources. So those data sources, whether they may be databases, SQL, or from the web itself, and then we transform those data sources with the use of our tools. Then our tools basically there. This is where we actually derive our report, our dashboards. So that's how data visualization work, and the benefits in using visualization. So there are lots of benefits, and I will be naming four of them only at the moment, or four of them, which I highly recommend, or which I highly think they are much more plausible or much more useful. So number one would be our better analysis. So better analysis, it actually speeds up our decision-making processes. So one thing, for example, when we use data visualization, we tend to we have our visuals and our data being collaborated. So what happens here is, for example, in this example, the lower section has like we can understand easily immediately that the lower section of this graph, we can understand that it's a lower amount of sales or store breakdown, while the upper section has the higher amount of sales. And spotting patterns in data and grasping latest trends. This is actually very important because data has patterns, and with these patterns, we can actually gather information or make some get some decisive analysis on those patterns. So when we do our visualization, the benefits of it is when we have these patterns, we can easily procure some analysis. So let's say, for example, in this part, we have June, the the start and the end of the month, we have an increase in sales. So that means we can prepare in the next month a decisive decision. So understanding the meaning behind the data. So all data has stories to tell, but those are unclear if it's raw data. Um, but with the help of visualization, doing uh, or combining them both, we can actually see trends or tales, and I don't know, not trends, but tales and stories about their data. So let's say, for example, we have our graphs, which are which actually talks about tales about trends. So we have our bar charts, which actually talk about comparison, and we have our tables. We can actually that talks about organized data. So next we'll be grabbing business insight. So, since we have like all of those benefits, the main benefit, of course, will be the business insight. This is taking action or doing the decision or grabbing the decision based on the analysis. So once we grab those analysis or once we grab those decisions from our analysis, those business insights can help our company grow or help our businesses grow in the long term. And what happens basically is we can increase or maximize our profit or maximize our or minimize our losses. So key factors in a perfect visualization storytelling. And the first part is the targeted audience can actually understand your visual at a glance. We set up a clear framework. We make our audience ask lesser questions, and of course, it tells a story. So our targeted audience can understand our visual at a glance. So the best part of this, or why this is a key factor, is because understanding your audience, and once they are trying to once they grasp your visual in a glance, there will be what would happen is a coincident. What would happen is basically a downstream where people will definitely just gain or understand your visuals. Basically, your report is much more easier to understand. So what happens, let's say, for example, in our breakdown sales report, we have the sales by month, and or for example, it's the percentage of the shareholding. Let's say, for example, we have our China as the biggest. So easily we understand that this is a breakdown in sales report with a labeling and uh, in the once your audience has that power to understand it in a glance, it's much more easier for them to get more decisions. So it sets up a clear framework. What good thing about or what key why the key factor is setting up a clear framework is because you need to have of course you need to derive your design from or you need to derive your design from whatever the goal of your whatever the goal of your dashboard is. So let's say, for example, when we set up our clear framework, this is a global conservation report. So it's basically using reduced, reused, and recycled material. So what's good is that we can derive from the icon itself of conservation that the theme of the framework, like the color, the patterns, and even the positioning, can all those you can derive them once we set up our clear framework. It makes your audience ask lesser questions. So what's good about this is because a good experience of mine was basically we had a project in which or mostly projects start up or reports start up with people asking questions, of course. So let's say, for example, you have a new report. People tend to ask questions. What is this? What is that? So how is this working? How is this even comparable to what we have? So if people or if your audience ask lesser questions, that means they understand your visual or your report or dashboard immediately. So what's good about it is because that means that your visual is effective in telling a story. You don't need to tell the story yourself, but you need your visual to tell the story for themselves. Uh, Next would be telling a story, of course. So telling a story, so your visual has a story to tell. You need to compact them in the dashboard. So once your goal or once your business insight is being reached, it actually tells a long story. There will be either mostly negatives or positives, whatever they may be. Those are called character progression. Once we have those character progression, we can easily say, for example, the character when we're building up our story with a proper character progression, we should be able to get the conclusion, which is the business insight. So these are some tips and tricks in creating a data story. And these are choose the charts that tell the story. So I don't recommend that all charts are efficient, but there are some charts that are much more better than others. So remove anything that doesn't support the story. So this is keeping things simple, design for comprehension. This is basically knowing what to design and what's your placement. So placement actually plays a big part of this and tell the whole story. So when we choose the chart that tells the best story, well, what happens is we should always grab the most efficient visualization. So we make use of the right data visualization tool in each data analysis situation. And let's say, for example, we have and A and B over here showcase different visuals. And majority will definitely choose B rather than A. as it represents much more easier to understand. B is much more easier to understand than A. So not all this concludes that not all of the charts or not all visualizations are correct, but we need to choose always or maximize our efficiency in our visualizations. So remove anything that doesn't support the story. Let's say we have a lot of jargon. Let's say we have a lot of jargon, unnecessary labelings. So, but we don't want to have our story to be composed of those side characters. What we need to do, or what we need to have, is the story has to be impacted by the protagonist, or what I should call, like, this is, let's say for example, we have our unit sold by product. This is the main source, or this is the main point of our report. So our main protagonist would be the unit sold chart. That means if it can support itself on the story, do or the jargon itself, or the unnecessary reports, unnecessary visuals, we can actually just remove them and keep all of things simple. Simplicity is always the best part, or the best way when trying to do the story. So yep, highly recommended that we don't add anything that isn't really entirely supported by the story. But once the story, once you think that the story itself is already independent, it should be able. That means you should be able to grasp the inner business insight. So design for comprehension. This is actually, we try to make the data easier for the readers to understand. Just like similarly with the previous part, the best way, when we design, we should comprehend first, or we should understand first what is the goal, or what is like the framework. And we can this is just an example. We have A and B. A has lesser data points than B. So the good thing about here is that A we can understand in A, we can understand the donut chart easier since it has lesser data points. But when it comes to B, we have a lot of data points, and it's mostly jargon because we can't actually see the data or the data labels. But with the use of bar charts, it's both are actually much more better to understand. So we need to have our design, or we need to design with comprehension. We need it to be easily understandable. And what's your placement? Proper placement actually plays is actually a key, actually one of the biggest or key fundamentals in designing. Because if, for example, we have unrelated materials close with if we have unrelated materials close to each other, they basically make no sense. But if we have related materials being placed into each other, we can make those comparisons. And within those comparisons, we can actually have or get the hidden agenda, hidden meaning of our business, or get a grabber, or get a hidden insight on our business. Then tell the whole story. Um, a very common experience is that if the requirement tells you to only, like, say for example, give a quarterly view, but if for example, if you have the leverage, or if you have the space to cater for a yearly or a bigger or wider picture, it's much more better to tell the whole story. Because one example is, we've created a report which is, let's say for example, quarterly, but we tried to incorporate yearly with the quarter design. It actually gave them a much more better insight, where they understood that, oh, in 2019 we only have this kind of amounts of sales, but looking on the past, or looking forward, it's actually much more higher. So it gives actually a better or a clear whole story, because it's from the start to the end. And best practices for visualization story. Well, best practices is basically, for me, these are my 5 best practices for a visualization story. First of all is summaries for key points, clear headings, getting the obvious trends, relevant comparisons, and knowing when to use the correct charts. Some of them might be repeated, but since they are the like basically the best practices to this key point in creating a visualization story. So the summaries of key points, well, this is basically um, producing or presenting the most important points as efficiently as possible. So we might have jargon, we might have visuals, charts, graphs, but if, for example, we're trying to like incorporate it with a lot of data, for example, it's gonna be mostly jargon. It's gonna be hard to understand. So what happens, or what's good, or what's much more better, is we use just data tables. It keeps everything neat, simple, and organized. With tables, we easily understand the key points because it summarizes the whole key points. Then we have then that means we have the most important points efficiently on the table rather than using those charts. So clear headings and keys. So present it with proper labeling. Um, with proper labeling, we should be able to understand what the report means, like sales by month and by market. Then that means we understand what all of this, we understand what the whole visualization is for. Once we understand the whole visualization, what the whole visualization is for, that means we understand the whole report, or we can get the context easily. So obvious trends, definitely we will be tackling trends in the long run, and some data actually hides trends. And an experience of mine is that there are some cases in where trends are not what do you call this, viewed properly or understand. Or there are some cases where data doesn't really, or people doesn't understand that their data has trends. The best way is that we actually get these trends, because trends are basically a key factor for our business insights. And why I mean it's a key factor, it's because um, trends actually showcase when we can actually maximize our decision or minimize our decision. That depends on what kind of trend it is. It's going to be a higher trend or going to be a lower trend. And relevant comparisons, well, comparisons help put your data into context. Just like similarly with the other part, we have, when we try to compare, it should be relevant to each other. Because if it's unrelevant, like just earlier, if it's unrelevant, what's gonna happen? It's like in Doctor Strange, for example, we have different multiverses coming into like in one kind of universe. So what happens is like multiple stories with no relation to each other just going in. What's gonna happen is pure chaos. So it's better to have relevant comparisons rather than unrelated ones. And if but best and possible is just to put them in another report, or basically if there's some kind of relation that you can try to dig up, then it is possible to add them in your dashboard or report. And this time, know when to use the correct chart. So basically there's a whole lot of charts in the current market, and it's not all situations or not all times they are correct to be used. So it's best that we try to analyze first on what kind of chart is better for this kind of situation. And let's say, for example, and we have comparison change over time, part to whole, flow, ranking, spatial distribution, correlation, and singles. So you better want to choose a more efficient kind of flow in your visuals rather than just putting in jargon amount of charts of there, where it doesn't really make sense why you put this kind of chart in your report or dashboard. So let's start with how Explora can actually help you in all of this. So Explora has actually an is an expert actually to a variety of tools. We have lots of experts, either from Power BI, Excel, Tableau, Looker, and so much more. So what happens is that Explora can help you in building those dashboards or train your staff to manage themselves. This is actually an ongoing program of Explora where we train staff so that they can create their own dashboards or manage some created dashboards that we have procured or that we have done for them. And what's good is Explora has capable teams that can handle from top to bottom interaction. I would like to highlight this further after this next slide. And most of our this is an story which most of our client managers are able to find that the data that they require without having to consult an IT staff member. What's good is that with the proper or with the proper data visualization that we're using, um, or companies before doesn't really use reports or dashboards. Not necessarily companies before, but companies doesn't have the what they call this the the proper report or dashboard functionality. So we have tried to lessen those times in where IT has to consult or no where clients managers have to consult with IT staff member, and it's a very good experience that we had. And why I want to highlight actually why Explora members can what Explora members can give to you is because there is a data. My mentor actually gave me or made me understand what is a data iceberg. So not visualization is not that simple because behind visualization we have a lot of things going on from data modeling, data transformation, quality integration, data structures, data security, business definitions. They all need to be compacted or be used properly because without them, we can't have trusted data. And once don't have trusted data, we don't have the user experience that we want to deliver for our clients. So that what happens is only 20% of the iceberg is data visualization. Majority of 80% is all on the back end. And what's good is Explora has experts from both fields, either data visualization and all of those back end stuff like transformation, modeling, quality, integration, security, business definitions, data structures. We all have those back end experts that can help us or help you in your company. And these are samples that I want to give or want to show. This is a net sales and quantity comparison. And this is the global conservation, which is basically an example report that we created. And any questions?
So hi, John. I do have a question.
Hi, Angus. Hi, Angus.
Hi, my name is
Hi,
Angus.
Angus.
I'm from Central Innovation. Because our industry is a little bit different from others. Like it's not the traditional kind of like sales and marketing. We would rather want to use this kind of like data report or visualization on some professional domain, for example, like construction industry. So, is there any specific, information you can share with us on this kind of like, a professional domain instead of just typical kind of a sales and marketing sector?
Uh, Sorry, Angus. But what you're trying to what the question entails is that you have a business sector that is much more different from sales, right?
Yes, we want to make use of, for example, like those kind of like visualization technology, and
Hmm.
for example, like those put in place in the construction domain. For example, like to integrate with those some IoT devices and to make use of like Tableau or Power BI to show some visualization to the management. So, do you have any sharing or experience on this particular professional domain?
I think one experience of mine, and it's actually I think currently going right now. I'm not sure if it's actually related uh, since it's quite a different kind of structure. It's actually supply and value chain. So what happens is we try to we try to get, let's say, for example, like the demand. I think it still qualifies like the sales, but we try to get like how much does a warehouse need to procure to create this kind of amounts of uh, production per day. So um, yeah, so it's basically I think we can actually use this yeah, I think we can actually use this as an example because since those kind of demands are pretty much more different than your typical sales, what happens is like we can see like the flow of supply or yeah, you can see the flow of our supply going in and out of our warehouses, and then how many are being produced per day and how long does it take to go to like the proper stores. So it's basically much more on logistics. So I think by construction, we can actually make use of it or make use of something like this because let's say, for example, we have our construction site in which we can see we can actually have like some kind of visualization in where, let's say, for example, we have construction A, construction B, and then our amount of materials that are being put into those kinds of constructions or construction sites, we can actually monitor all of them.
Thank you. So I basically get your idea. So I happy to know that you can transform into another domain. So maybe I will contact with your, the account manager in Hong Kong, so to explore any further on this kind of like other industry other than the typical sales and marketing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr.
Yes.
Angus.
So John, please have to move to the next slide. We can
Yeah.
introduce our offering first. Yeah.
No worries. Thanks, Taurus. And
Okay,
let me
now yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
no worries. Let me pass it to Taurus.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for John's presentation. I think I hope all of you enjoy it and think it which is fruitful. Okay, now there
Sorry.
are yeah, it's okay. Oh, okay, now there are three offering we can provide to you when you attend the webinar today. The first one is a free assessment workshop. We already provide more than 15 assessment for our client. We can help your business, or we can align with your business strategy. Okay, we will schedule a meeting with your team or different department to talking about your business situation, and then we will provide a strategic or some architecture for your future planning. So if you have interest in our assessment workshop or know more detail, please fill the feedback form. I will show you the next slide. Okay, the second one is our competitive offshore resources. Since I have mentioned in the beginning, we have a three office. One is in Philippines and another one is in Finland. Okay, so there are many skillful and high experience employees. They are focusing on digital transformation project or some BI analytic project. Okay, so they are well trained by Explora, and then we have co-worked with many projects before. So if you if you have some project and then you looking for some cost saving, okay, and if and your company don't mind to using offshore resources, please feel free to contact us, and then we can understand or know your situation or your project information first, and then maybe we'll select which offshore resources which is fit for your business. Okay. The last but not least is our Explora token in data project. So maybe sometimes you want to do some testing, or you would like to count of a trial. Oh, okay, to test first. Okay, we have different kind of token which can provide to you. So if you are interested in purchase some token from Explora, okay, please move to the next slide, Gabriel. Thank you. Okay, please feel free to fill the survey form. Okay, please tell us today presentation and then which offering you are interested. Okay, so now you can use your mobile to scan the QR code or just type the shortened URL, and then it will direct you to our survey form. Okay. So now we have already received some feedback from our back end. Okay, thank you everyone for your time today. Okay, I will send the thank you email to all of you if you still not fill the survey form. Okay, okay, thank you all of you today. Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.